again. Tonight on the program, two quite extraordinary journeys. One through a land where power comes only through the barrel of a gun, and another to the land that coined that famous saying, but where these days power comes from the dollars of Hong Kong. From the hills above Sarajevo, through the mountain passes that defeated Hitler's armies, to the borders of Croatia, Carmel Travers on the road through Serbian-held Bosnia.
In village after village after village, we're seeing thousands of houses destroyed, like this one behind me.
From a penthouse boardroom in Hong Kong, down the Pearl River on a fast boat to China, with a man who's investing millions in its drive towards capitalism. And in Houston, Texas, a journey back in time, with the party that believes America's future lies in the values of the past.
Responsibility, integrity, industry, morality, and respect for others.
For months now, we've watched the civil war in Bosnia escalate. Serbia and the Serbs of Bosnia have been blamed by the rest of the world for most of the horrors we've seen. The outbreak of violent conflict, the slaughter in Sarajevo, the mass exodus of refugees, the ethnic cleansing, and the gruesome detention camps. The Serbs seem intent not just on partitioning Bosnia along ethnic lines, but on grabbing as much of its territory as possible. But what's driving the Serbs? Why, after living in apparent peace with their Muslim and Croat neighbours for a generation, are they now so full of hatred? Those are questions which, up till now, very few Western journalists have been able to ask, let alone answer. The fact is, they haven't been allowed into the Serbian-held areas of Bosnia. But 4 weeks ago, freelance reporter Carmel Travers and cameraman David Brill travelled into Bosnia, guided by a group of Australian Serbs. They were only able to travel where their Serbian guides thought it reasonably safe or politically prudent for them to go. Many things, including the notorious detention camps, they were not allowed to see. So what they've come back with amounts to a snapshot from one side of an ugly and complex war. It doesn't pretend to be anything else. Almost every statement made by the Serbs in Carmel's report would be fiercely contested by Muslims and Croats. But it's a picture which until now we've not had the chance to see.
There's been no appropriate time in this war to report the beauty of Bosnia-Herzegovina, once the productive heartland of old Yugoslavia. Now, in just a few short months following Europe's March recognition of the independent state of Bosnia-Herzegovina, this heartland is blood-stained at every turn. Once home to a population of 4 million, 44% Muslim, 32% Serbian and 17% Croatian, Bosnia-Herzegovina has been ravaged, its people brutalised and cast out.
It's almost impossible to convey the level of destruction that has occurred across this countryside. We're prevented from filming from most of the main roads. But in village after village after village, we're seeing thousands of houses destroyed, like this one behind me. In the small villages of mixed population, neighbour was pitted against neighbour, Serbian boyfriend against the family of his Croatian girlfriend, and professional soldier against children and babies. There's been a wide-scale slaughter of thousands of innocents. The only certainty in this war, a war described as ethnic cleansing, but by whom and of whom remains uncertain, the only certainty is the level of hatred and the ferocity of the fighting from all sides.
It was to this unlikely battleground, far removed from my generation's images of war, that a group of Australian Serbs brought us to plead their cause. There was Misha, 20 years an Australian, an opal miner from Kubapidi, hotel proprietor in Adelaide. He returned to Bosnia last November when his brother was killed, and will remain, he says, until the Serbs of Bosnia are free.
Somebody has to win the war. And as far as I can see, there is no political solution to it, because the Serb enemy on the other side, if you like, they don't want to talk peace, they don't want a peace. So it's big trouble there. You need a two side or two opposite sides to talk to each other and to negotiate things, where we have none, no response from that.
And there was Marco, aged 26, an Adelaide lawyer. His father, a former refugee from Tito's communist state.
What the Croats want is a rebirth, the World War II state, where Serbs are not subject to second-class status, but no status at all. And that's what the Muslims want, is to establish a fundamentalist Islamic regime. Where Izetbegovic, the Muslim leader, has actually said that there's no room for the Serbs in their state.
To Misha and Marco, there is only one truth in this war, and it's a Serbian truth. Thus far, there's been little evidence of a Muslim jihad being waged in Bosnia, and EC peace negotiator Lord Carrington considers it's the Serbs who've most frustrated peace talks. Even so, to Serbs around the world, Bosnia has become their rallying cry, with centuries of brutal oppression behind them by the Turks, the Austro-Hungarians, the fascists and the communists. The Serbs say now, whatever the price for Serb independence, they'll pay.
I nemate sile koja će ih uništiti. Neka sila može da odloži realizaciju ove naše težnje, ali da nas spriječi da realizujemo istorijske težnje, te sile nema, tim prije što Bog nije protiv te naše težnje, što je Bog ovog puta na našoj strani.
Our journeys were the most extensive yet undertaken by any foreign film crew in Bosnia. Cameraman David Brill covered hundreds of miles, from Belgrade through Serb-held territory to Sarajevo and the Serb military command at Pale, and then on to Trebinje, Nevesenje, still meaningless names in a distant war. The rugged terrain he traversed provided one explanation for United Nations' reluctance to place more troops in Bosnia. 500,000 soldiers would make little impact on this landscape, the perfect terrain for a protracted guerrilla war. Later, we travelled together along the ironically named Brotherhood and Unity Highway from Belgrade into northern Bosnia. Skirting heavy fighting, we moved to Banja Luka and into Knin in Krajina, officially a part of Croatia, but now under Serb domination. It was a frightening journey, shrouded by suspicion. No one trusted us, and we couldn't trust them. We weren't confident that they could tell the difference between truth and propaganda, or between sensible risk and suicidal rashness. And always around us, the fear of the sniper, the set piece in this ugly coward's war. Many of the snipers are hired guns. Allegedly, this black mercenary was one of them.
I think it's fairly dangerous, because we were told there is some booby traps around here, and they said, as far as they know, there is no snipers, but it's quite possible we're having some snipers out there too.
But there's no sign of any human life. Everyone's gone.
No, actually, they're all evacuated from this place, yes. Yep.
We heard the shot go off. We heard the shot go off.
All right, let's go.
Considering what happened last war.
If we're driving slow, it's easy for them to shoot at us. When you're moving fast, it's pretty hard for them to follow it.
But the Serbs have been in control of this
correct. They're controlling this area for a while, but it's nothing stopping a sniper living there for 10, 15 days, even for months in the bush or house or anywhere, you know? Or even that he can come through at night time and he start shooting tomorrow morning. Nobody knows about him. It's very hard to control snipers.
Such has been the psychological impact of the sniper that it's paralyzed the country, and nowhere more so than in Sarajevo. For months now, this Muslim-dominated city has taken a pounding. From these frontline positions in the mountains surrounding the town, the Serbs have pulled a noose around Sarajevo's lifeline. They claim it's a defensive position.
Kako se osjećaš sa tim mitraljezom pucati dole u grad gdje ti je možda imaš prijatelja svoje i isto od neprijatelja, familija i toga?
Pa ja mislim da ne pucamo u grad, nego slučajevi samo odbrane po ovoj dolini i borovini.
What do you mean by taking it?
Pa napadaju neprijatelji, ovi zna se ko su više. Molim? Zna se ko je. Na srpske teritorije koji napada već, to su beretke zelene. Hrvatske ima.
Why is he fighting in this war? What's he fighting for?
Za slobodu srpsku i srpski narod. Jer nam je jaram, otkako znam za sebe, na vratu. Vječito, po mojoj pameti smo bili ugnjetavani. Ja mislim da je vakat da se ovo griješimo i neće dugo trajati.
The Serbs believe this is an essential war, a war of survival in the face of Croatian and Muslim aggression. It's hard to reconcile that view with their apparently complete military domination of the country, arming their entire population to keep it that way. At Nevesinje, reclaimed by Serbs in May, these guns are still aimed at Croatia.
This isn't just a war between professional armies, but between ragtag bands of civilian soldiers, of men and women who have vengeance and survival on their minds.
Ljubim je što je volim, hoću sa njom da ubijem ustašku.
Kako mećeš?
Davaj!
Ajde, ravnaj, kazvaj ti, libena.
From battlefield to high command, the rhetoric is circa 1941, when hundreds of thousands of Serbs suffered ethnic cleansing at the hands of the Croatian fascists, the Ustasha. Time, it seems, has not blurred their memories.
I od 1941. do 1945. stradali smo više od naših komšija nego od Nemaca. I sad je slično, samo što sada nije tu njemački vojnik. Njemačka pomaže svesrdno snage koje ruši Jugoslaviju. Ali ne znači da neće opet biti Nemaca. Već ih imaju na razaračima u Jadranu, a njemački ratni vampir izašao je iz Njemačke.
To an outsider, such rhetoric seems conspiratorial polemic, but it is a potent force across the population. Young and old, Serbs are taking up arms. But this is the actual face of the enemy, an obviously terrified couple from the Croatian Medical Corps who'd lost their way and strayed into Serb-controlled territory. They were being interrogated by Serb soldiers, joined by Marko.
How long have you been in the Croatian army?
I'm short time, 5 days.
5 days?
Yes.
Or you joined up and split?
I have bad luck.
Were you conscripted or did you volunteer yourself?
No, I'm not volunteer, but in the Croatian army they need a nurse. I'm not volunteer.
You're not a volunteer?
Yeah.
Are you a volunteer?
No. beside also. Before 4 months, in the 30th of July is 4 months, exactly.
And you were captured at the same time on
Yes, with
Bosnian territory?
Yes. We are team.
The Croatian President Franjo Tuđman says that the Croatian army is not operating in Bosnia-Herzegovina. What do you say to that?
We don't know that we are in Herzegovina. I never before been here, and I can know that we go in this territory.
Do you consider Bosnia-Herzegovina to be Croatian territory?
I don't know, that's politics. Not interest for politics. I have my town, my split.
Do you consider Bosnia-Herzegovina to be part of Croatia?
No.
You don't?
Absolutely no.
So why is it that your army, the Croatian army, is in Bosnia-Herzegovina?
I don't know. That question must be put to the politics.
The eventual fate of this young couple was left uncertain. Serb commanders said they would become part of a prisoner exchange. We weren't told where they would be held in the meantime. But as the world cries out in shame at the spectre of detention centres, the Serbs retaliate with horror stories of their own. In this village, like so many bordering Croatia, its people driven out, the Serbs countercharge the Croatians with ethnic cleansing.
Imamo djecu u Švicarskoj, sezonski radi, napatili se, puno se napatili dok se ovo pomoglo. A ovu kuću, ovo smo ja i moj muž pravili iz drva. Drva smo sjekli i ranili djeci, porez plaćali i da imamo. Evo sada nemamo ništa.
How do you explain it? In simple words, why did it happen?
Ovo sa što je se desilo? Pa ja mislim samo da je se desilo što nas toliko mrze i toliko nas ne mogu uopšte smisliti da postoji narod srpski.
From this woman who'd lost most things she held dear, this was the most simple explanation for the war. The Serb knowledge that they have been brutalized before and will not be brutalized again without a bitter fight. One other person concurred. Significantly, he was an historian, a philosopher, and also the president of New Yugoslavia.
Svako ko želi etnički čistu Bosnu, Bosnu bez Hrvata, Bosnu bez muslimana, ko želi Bosnu bez Srba, a tako je danas stanje tamo, on je razvio taj egzistencijalni strah, razvio je tu iracionalnu, strahotnu mržnju. Ona zastrašuje normalnog čoveka. Posljedice te mržnje će dugo trajati. Biće to upropašćeni narodi i upropašćeni životi, upropašćene porodice, upropašćeni ljudi koji prežive takvu toliko mržnju.
Next week in London, the leaders of all factions in Bosnia-Herzegovina are due to start yet another round of peace talks. But do leaders like Radovan Karadzic represent anyone but themselves? The young men I met in Bosnia have got the taste for war and have their sights set on a Serb military victory. They're now confident that no outside force will intervene. It's hard to believe that even the men who claim to lead them can now suppress the hatred unleashed.
Carmel Travis, who returned from Bosnia 2 weeks ago. Earlier today, the self-styled president of the so-called Serbian Republic of Bosnia, Radovan Karadzic, went to a Belgrade studio to talk to me by satellite. Dr. Karadzic, the world has looked on in horror now for some months at what's going on in Bosnia. They see 1.5 million people out of their homes. They see thousands of people, children and civilians being killed. They hear stories of detention camps and atrocities. And now they hear that about 70% of that country is in Serbian hands, and they blame you and the Serbian militia. Why are they wrong?
They are completely wrong. Nobody bring out the Serbian side of medal, the Serbian truth. As a matter of fact, Serbian people in Bosnia and Herzegovina have been majority before Second World War, and that's why they own, in terms of private ownership, 64% of territory. And we didn't conquer the other's territory, we just control our own territory.
But there are thousands and thousands of deaths now, and we hear of horror stories every day of atrocities, and most of those people are Croatian Bosnians and Muslims, not Serbs. Isn't that correct?
No, this is not correct. All of three sides have too many victims in the battlefield as well as civilians. But I still think it's not part of policy of Croatian side or Muslim side or Serbian side. This is because this war is the worst kind of war, inter-ethnic and inter-religious war. Everyone is hating the others and everyone is frightened from the others.
But Dr. Krajic, as I said, there are 1.5 million people who have been forced out of their homes who are now refugees, probably tens of thousands of deaths, particularly in Sarajevo, and you're saying that that's not the responsibility of Serbian militia and people like yourself, that it's not Croats and Muslims who are dying?
There are Serbs, Croats and Muslims who die on the battlefield, but
and
Serbian policy...
And the cities? And towns?
Yes, of course, but this is because of nature of this war, not because of policy. We have more than 350,000 Serbs as ethnic refugees, and we have too many Serbs as ethnic hostages, who are kept in the cities and not allowed to move from this territory.
But isn't it true, sir, isn't it true that you could call this thing to a halt now by calling the Serbian militia to heel and say, let's stop this fighting now, let's stop the death, let's stop the atrocities, let's talk properly?
We are doing investigations about atrocities, and we are just about to make peace with Croatian side, because Croatian side accepts to talk. And I do hope that we are going to end conflict with Croatian side very soon.
And the Muslims?
Muslims are refusing to talk, unfortunately, and we have to wait them to be ready to talk.
But isn't the ethnic cleansing that we've heard so much about aimed directly and almost entirely at the Muslims? Isn't the Muslim population that you're trying to get rid of, to put it that bluntly?
Not really. Mainly they express their own wish to leave Serbian surrounding, and we are...
Not what we see, sir. We don't see people wanting to leave, we see people forced to leave.
No, the forceful shifting of the people is forbidden, and if there's something we are going to investigate and to punish, but we allow people to return immediately after we make peace. So this is not ethnic cleansing. They can return immediately after we make peace.
But isn't it true that you did start this war? Isn't it true that you wanted an ethnically divided Bosnia?
We didn't start this war. This war was started because European community have pushed the things. They pushed Bosnia and Herzegovina into independence before it was ready to be independent, before it is transformed into sort of confederation of type of Switzerland. I don't know what's wrong with Switzerland. We are three ethnics, three religions. We are extremely antagonized, and we should transform Bosnia and Herzegovina into confederation, and that's much better to have separated those three ethnics than to have them fighting.
And you insist that despite what the rest of the world thinks, you and the Serbs are not to blame?
This is the whole campaign, propaganda campaign against Serbian side. It's really very difficult to fight against, and we can't do anything but wait for God to make the truth visible.
So this is not just propaganda on your part? You really believe that the rest of the world is wrong when they blame you?
This is media. This is just media, not the rest of the world, but media. And we can't fight this propaganda campaign against us.
Doctor, will the killing go on? It doesn't look like stopping.
I pray to God to stop it, to have stopped it. If Muslim side accepted to exchange prisoners, we wouldn't have any prison, because Croats usually and regularly exchange their own prisoners, and we don't have Croats in our prisons. But Muslim side is refusing to talk, refusing to exchange people, refusing to make peace or ceasefire. They just want the whole Bosnia and Herzegovina under their own domination, and Serbs and Croats are not ready to accept it.
Do you fear military intervention from the outside, from the US or the UN or the EC? Do you fear that military intervention is inevitable and that you would lose that battle?
I don't think so. I don't think that the military intervention would do anything better. It would worsen things, it would escalate war, and it would not resolve any problem in Bosnia and Herzegovina. This is internal problem. This is not aggression from Serbia, because none of soldiers fighting in Bosnia and Herzegovina came from Serbia.
Well, unfortunately, Doctor, I have to say that very few people in the world at the moment, rightly or wrongly, accept your point of view. But thank you very much for talking to us.
Thank you.
Radovan Karadzic, who persists in not admitting any blame at all. Like most wars, this one can't be covered from both sides at once. So don't bombard our long-suffering telephonists if you feel the Serbs have had a lot of time on tonight's program. Tony Jones is currently heading for the Croatian-held area of Bosnia, where he'll be covering the situation for the 7:30 report in a few days' time. Next week, Dominic Swartz meets a new breed of American politician, a woman trying to break into one of the oldest men's clubs in the world, the United States Senate. Join us again then. Good night.